The Caller by George Herbert is a 36-line poem about a speaker's struggle for freedom. It was written by Herbert in 1633 while he struggled with his own religious beliefs. The poem does not conform to one particular rhyme scheme, but jumps from half or slant rhymes to full-end rhymes. There are a few moments which are more consistent in their patterns, such as the final 4 lines of the poem which rhyme A-B, A-B. Herbert chose this pattern, or lack of patterns, to mimic the chaos of his speaker's own thoughts. The first element of this piece a reader should take note of is the title. If one understands a bit about Herbert's religious background, the title takes on a second layer of meaning. The word caller has immediate connotation of submission and control, but it also refers to the piece of clothing worn by a member of the clergy. إن هذه القصيدة تتكلم عن صراع الاعتقاد والإيمان لدى الشاعر جورج هيربرت. تتكون القصيدة من 36 بيتا ولا تلتزم بنظام القافية الواحد أو النظامي، وممكن أن يعود هذا السبب إلى أنها تتحدث عن الفوضى في حياة الناس، لذلك مثلت القصيدة بقافية فوضوية نوعا ما. I struck the board and cried, no more I will abroad. What shall I ever sigh and pine? My lines and life are free, free as the road, loose as the wind, as large as stone. Shall I be still and suit? Have I no harvest but the thorn, to let me blood and not restore what I have lost with cordial fruit? Sure there was wine, before my sighs did dry it, there was corn, before my tears did drown it. Is the year only lost to me? Have I no bays to crown it? No flowers, no garland gay, all plastered, all wasted? Not so, my heart, but there is fruit, and thou hast hands, recover all thy sigh-blown age. On double pleasure leave thy cold dispute, of what is fit and not, forsake thy cage, thy robe of sands, which petty thoughts have made and made to thee. Good cable, to enforce and draw and be thy law, while thou didst wink and wouldst not see. Away, take heed, I will abroad, calling thy death's heed there, tie up thy fears. He that forbears to suit and serve his need deserves his load. But as I raved and grew more fierce and wild, at every word methought I heard one calling, "Child," and I replied, "My Lord." The main idea of the poem is that the poet is seeking freedom away from the chains of religions, despite the fact that the poet confesses that submission is the salvation from all the struggles of life, which was represented at the end of the poem. تتكلم القصيدة عن التخلص من قيود الدين لدى الشاعر وصراعه مع هذا الأمر، ولكنه في الحقيقة ينهي قصيدته بالاستسلام التام للإله والدين، وأن الدين هو ما ينظم حياة الناس. The analysis of the color, starting from line 1 to line 9. In the first stanza of the piece, the speaker shocks his readers by crying out that he has had enough. He says no more. He will not remain in his life any longer. The speaker will abroad. He asks the following lines if it's necessary for him to sigh and pine. The speaker is becoming more and more sure that it is not his sole purpose in life to want something he cannot have. He is severely dissatisfied with the current direction of his life and is ready to make a change. في المقطع الأول يتكلم الشاعر عن اكتفائه بنمط الحياة الذي يعيشه وملله منه، حيث أنه يريد التغيير ويريد تحسين حياته للأفضل عن طريق ترك العادات التي يتبعها من ممارسة الدين والطقوس. He sees himself as being able to live in life and write his lines free, free as the road. There should be no restraints on what he is allowed to do or say. He sees a future in which life is loose and resembles the wind. He desires to live in a world as large as he wants it to be. يريد أن يعيش حرا في حياته، لا أن يتحكم الغير بما يقوله أو ما يفعله أو كيفية نمط الحياة التي يعيشها. The following lines are used to ask if he must be still in suit. He wants to know if it's possible for him to change his life at this time, or if he is trapped in the world he has made around him. The next phrase proposes one type of life he could be living, one he cannot escape from. In this scenario, he compares himself to a plant which produces no fruit but only thorns, on which he cuts himself. It is the blood he loses that he hopes to use to reinvigorate himself. Perhaps he can benefit of his own present suffering. Lines 10 to 18. In the next set of lines, he tries to remember if there was a point in his life in which there was wine. It would have had to have been before this sigh did dry it. He thinks there is no way the suffering he is going through now has always been present in his life. There must have been days before in which one could find corn and wine. These days would be before his tears did drown it. To some context, he feels as if his own emotional state is making his already hard situations worse. في هذه الأبيات يتذكر أو يحاول الشاعر أن يتذكر إذا ما كان هناك أياما سعيدة في حياته، أياما كان يبتهج بها، ورغم هذا كان يلوم نفسه. لابد أن تكون هناك أيام سعيدة رغم كل الصعوبات التي رأيتها في حياتي والعذاب. لابد أن تكون هناك نقاط مضيئة في حياة الإنسان. The second half of the section is made up of a number of questions. He asks if there is any way for him to crown or save his year. He does not want it to be lost to him. The speaker searches for flowers or garlands gay, which might be used to improve his remaining days. كان يحاول الشاعر الاستعانة بالذكريات الجميلة الماضية لكي تساعده بالاستمرار في حياته الحالية. Two short phrases follow. They inquire if the flowers have all been blasted or wasted. The final two lines clarify that no, they have not. In this heart there is fruit. Still, with his hand, he plans to retrieve that fruit along with his happiness. Now with line number 19 to 28. The second half of the poem begins with the speaker asking a number of different things of himself. First, he wants to recover the pleasures of his past and leave behind this cold dispute of what is fit and not. He's done wasting time worrying about what is holy, proper, or good. These things will no longer interest him. It is his goal to leave behind his cage and a rope of sand. يحاول الشاعر طرح أكثر من سؤال لاستذكار اللحظات السعيدة في حياته والابتعاد عن كل ما يكدرها من قيود الدين وقيود المجتمع وما يجب عليه أن يفعل وما يجب عليه أن لا يفعل، وترك كل هذه الأمور خلف ظهره، وقارن القوانين والضوابط في الحياة كأنها robe of sand، كأنها حبل من الرمال ليس له قيمة، يتلاشى ويندثر. These means of confinement that the speaker mentions were crafted by religion and by his own hands. They were made by petty thoughts and turned into good cable, which was able to enforce and draw and turn into the law which he obeyed. يقول إن هذه القوانين إما جاءت عن طريق الدين أو ما وضعه هو لنفسه من قيود، مما أثقل كاهله وقيد حركته اتباعها والعمل بها. He is no longer going to be part of this lifestyle. He is moving on away from his confinement and collar. The final line repeats the declaration which appears at the beginning of the poem. I will abroad, he will depart. The final section of this piece concludes the narrator's agitated speech and produces a slight twist to the narrative. He continues speaking to himself and trying to boost his confidence for the change he is trying to make. The speaker asks that the death's heat leave him alone. He does not want to be bothered by his fears. It is his intention to tie them up and force them to serve his purpose. The speech ends with a set of lines which utilize the rhyme scheme of ABAB. They are used to bring the speaker back to his known reality. He describes how this raving comes to its climax, and rather than building him up, it just brought on the voice of God. The speaker heard "child" and replied, "My Lord." Like a child, he was chastised and brought back into the religious fold. بعد كل هذه العبارات وتصريحات منه والتهديد بأنه سوف يترك هذا النمط من الحياة، يرجع مرة ثانية ليستذكر النعم التي عاشها والأفضال التي جعلها الله وسخرها له، ليعود في الجزء الأخير من القصيدة عائدا إلى طاعة ربه عندما قال إنه سمع مناديا يقول يا بني، والتي تمثل كلام الله للبشر، وعندها أجاب نعم يا ربي, when he replied, my Lord. In regards to the literary devices, we have plenty of them, but I'm going to concentrate on 3 parts of it only. The first is simile. In line number 4 and 5, where the poet says, free as the road, loose as the wind, as large as a store. While we have contrast between thorn and fruit, بين الأشواك والفاكهة, hardness and toughness against fruit, which stands for happiness and pleasure. واللي قارن بين صعوبة الحياة وقهر الحياة وبين سهولتها والسعادة التي فيها. The last part, which is the rhyme, that we have plastered and wasted are rhymed words. However, in regards to the rhyme scheme, we discussed that it's a chaotic poem. Despite that we have part of the poem where it says ABAB, we cannot find a regular rhyme scheme. This is the end of our lecture for today, and I hope to see you in the next and last poem of this course.